extraordinary footage of the French president. It's got me puzzled, this one.
I think we need to do a welfare check, to be perfectly honest, on Emmanuel Macron. He landed in Vietnam, and this is what the cameras captured as the doors opened on the front of the plane. There's the president there, and then you will see he gets smacked in the face, or at least pushed, and he sort of gestures back to the bloke there, smiles at him, and then turns around and with a far more stern look on his face walks back onto the plane. And then you can see that is the sleeve that you saw pushing Macron in the face was that of his wife, Brigitte. Now, you know, whether or not that was some sort of playful tiff or she was actually going at him, you know, I mean, that's a potential case of domestic violence right there. I think it should be pointed out, if that was him doing that to her, there wouldn't even be a discussion about it. He would have to resign tomorrow. I don't think we can have double standards about this.
Yeah, that's a really interesting point. And you can see his reaction there when he realises there are cameras, and his stern face becomes a quick smile, waves, and then disappears back in. It's very weird footage. I don't know if we'll get an explanation, though.
Such a strange moment, but there's a lot about the French that's quite weird.
It's got the strangest insight into the already bizarre relationship between French President Emmanuel Macron and his wife Brigitte, 24 years his senior. They'd just landed in Vietnam Sunday night for a state visit. The crowd was waiting for Macron and his wife to come out when suddenly there was this, Brigitte apparently hitting her husband in the face. Macron realising people must have seen it, looks a bit shocked. No doubt told her they were out there. Then they both emerged. She later still refusing to take his arm. And then they didn't look too happy at the bottom of the stairs either. In fact, Macron had a fist clenched, tense. And even weirder was that his office first denied that what you saw was actually real. It claimed, oh, this is an artificial intelligence fake, made to make Macron look bad. And then a staffer said, oh, well, look, actually, they were just fooling around after a long flight. And then Macron kind of gave it away.
Nous sommes en train de nous chamailler et plutôt de plaisanter avec mon épouse.
We were squabbling and I was joking with my wife, and I'm surprised by it. And it becomes some sort of geoplanetary catastrophe.
Catastrophe géoplanétaire, donc faut que tout le monde se calme.
Everybody needs to calm down and should really focus on actual news.
I didn't know that squabbling was what you called hitting someone in the face. But anyway, attention on his marriage is actually the last thing Macron needs, because the way this couple met could have had his wife in jail had it happened here. Macron was just 15 years old when he appeared in a school play that was directed by Brigitte Macron, who happened to be his drama teacher, 35 years old, married and with 3 children. They were spotted kissing, and Macron was sent away to Paris to another school. But years later, they did marry when he was an adult. It seems Brigitte is still a teacher who believes in corporal punishment. Joining me to discuss foreign affairs is Sean Spicer, the first White House spokesman of President Donald Trump. Sean Spicer, great to see you. Look, I am going to get onto American politics, of course, but I just can't resist asking you because you were there at the White House when Macron and his wife paid Trump a visit years ago. You saw the couple again in a visit to Brussels, I believe, about 8 years ago. Looking now at Brigitte Macron pushing or hitting or punching her husband in the face, what do you make of it?
Well, I'm glad I was nice to her. We laugh, Andrew, and I think that that's kind of been the general reaction. But there is a real seriousness to this for all of the talk that we've had over the past few years about domestic violence. And it clearly goes both ways. And I know that, you know, there's a lot of jokes to be had at Macron's expense, but there is a serious aspect to this that I don't think should be overlooked. And I know even when their initial response, you know, they tried to initially deny this, but the tape was so clear as to what was going on. You know, I think we've got to figure out how to balance this. But yeah, 8 years ago, almost to the weekend, we were in Brussels for a NATO summit, and they invited President Trump over to I guess it's their ambassador. I was looking at the picture the other day. I forgot exactly where, but I think it was the French ambassador's residence there. And so we went, and they were very kind and welcoming. And he's always had a very warm relationship with President Trump. But he might want to come stay at Blair House here in the United States to get out of town if things continue the way that they might be.
Well, I have to say, you're right to rebuke us for laughing, because I can't think of any other marriage of friends I know that would endure either side punching the other in the or hitting each other in the face like that. I mean, it's just so extraordinary. And for this to be the president and his wife, it really makes people look at their really quite unique, bizarre, some might call it, relationship from way back when, and wonder who's the boss.
She was his teacher. This wasn't a tap on the shoulder or a light touch. This was truly a smack, and I will give Macron credit for how he responded to it, because I think the other thing that I thought to myself is that these folks have been in the public eye for quite some time. They're at the top of that stair off of the airplane, and she has to know that the cameras are on them. For her to actually know that this moment was going to be on film really kind of concerns me.
Well, even if they thought it wasn't going to be on film, that she wasn't standing in the doorway herself, there were people in the plane, and for her to treat him like that, it's just, I've never seen anything like it.
I think the word you're looking for is emasculating.
I think that's a pretty good word.
Now, it was the love affair that captured the world's attention. The younger, Emmanuel Macron, 47, and the older woman, Brigitte, 72. They met when he was just 15, and she was a married mother of 3. She was 39 years old. So that's around a 24-year age gap. She was one of his high school teachers. And 14 years after they met in 1993, they were married. But now their marriage is being examined through a different light after this footage emerged of Brigitte pushing her husband in the face. Now, Macron's office initially tried to claim it was fake footage, fake, and it was a line that the French media obediently repeated. But that spin wasn't sustainable when it emerged that several press cameras from international media outlets captured the shove. Now, Macron has since denied that he was having a domestic dispute, and he sought to downplay the whole incident. He said they were just playing.
We were squabbling and I was joking with my wife, and I'm surprised by it. And it becomes some sort of geoplanetary catastrophe. Everybody needs to calm down and should really focus on actual news.
Yeah, isn't it annoying when journalists focus on the wrong news? But if you look at the initial footage, you can see by the stunned look in his face that they weren't playing and he wasn't expecting the physical contact. So his office then changed their line. It wasn't fake news anymore. It was then Russian disinformation. It was a conspiracy theory. And that's, of course, ridiculous because clearly she deliberately pushed his face. And now there's controversy and much debate around the way she slapped him. Now, if this was a man shoving a woman in the face, it would be clearly labelled by everyone an act of domestic violence. They'd be concerned that the woman was being physically abused, concern for her ongoing safety in that relationship. But why is it any different if the gender roles are reversed? Ben Fordham today said that it was, in his view, a physical assault and that Macron might be a victim of physical and domestic violence.
If you reverse the roles for a moment and imagine that it was her on the receiving end of the slap, I reckon he'd be under arrest right now.
And Gemma Tognini writes that this is a double standard. She says a woman gets hit in the face and it's game over, as it bloody should be. "Man, calm down. They're just showing the world how close they are. They're just chilling." Now, Macron is the ultimate lefty hero. So the feminists have been strangely quiet on this one. They always are quick to talk about domestic violence, but not in this instance, it seems. Because apparently domestic violence just goes one way: men hitting women. If it's the reverse, it's fake news. It's Russian disinformation. It's a conspiracy theory. They're just showing their togetherness. Je ne sais quoi, c'est la vie, pas de problème. The hypocrisy.
First to a bizarre, some would say disturbing incident involving French President Emmanuel Macron and his wife Brigitte. The pair were disembarking a plane in Vietnam when Brigitte was filmed slapping Emmanuel Macron. Indeed, the 72-year-old aggressively pushed her husband's face with both hands. In an interaction which quickly made headlines around the world, let's bring in News Corp's senior writer Patrick Carline. Patrick, the French president's office is declaring this was just play fighting. It was a playful interaction. It wasn't a violent one. Are you buying that explanation?
I don't think the world is buying that explanation. That was not horsing around. And if you keep playing the footage, you see that he reaches for her hand as they walk off down the plane. And she refuses to take it. That's not horsing around. And you look at his expression there as it's happening. That's not fun.
No, he was not expecting that door to be opened and for that interaction to be shown to the world.
Yes.
So the shock there was very, very real. Now, there are so many rumours about Brigitte and Emmanuel, but I'm just going to put those to one side for the moment. The official explanation, the official narrative of their relationship, Patrick, to me is troubling enough. The claim is from the couple is that they met back in 1993 when Macron was 15 years old, while Brigitte was 39 and a teacher at his school.
Yes.
In most civilised countries, they would have her up on charges, not being the first lady of the nation. I mean, how is this okay?
Well, look, this age gap, I mean, it's been,
The age gap now is one thing, but back then when she's a teacher in a position of authority and he's a teenager, underage, come on.
She was married. I think she had 3 kids at the time. I think he left. He went to another high school. Then they caught up again when he moved to Paris later on. So I think the official story is that he was a bit older than 15.
When things became romantic.
Yes.
And if you believe that, then good luck.
I have to get to this story about Macron because it is absolutely shocking. French President Emmanuel Macron has been assaulted by his wife, First Lady Brigitte Macron. Now, the incident where Brigitte appears to slap her husband has been caught on camera as their plane was about to disembark to Vietnam. This is the vision. Look, Emmanuel Macron is dismissing the video that is going viral, saying they were just joking, they were just play fighting. But Brigitte Macron is a 72-year-old First Lady. That makes her a leader. The eyes of the world are on her. It's absolutely not okay. And I don't think anyone is buying this spin from Macron that he is saying it was just a joke. What's your reaction?
Well, if it had been just a joke, then they would have been giggling and holding hands and laughing down the steps all the way down there, the gangway, but they weren't. It was frigid. It was icy. She did not take his hand. He did not take hers. What I think is interesting is the way that there was the slap or the attempted slap, and he, looked aghast. He looked horrified. And then he immediately put on this fake camera-ready smile the moment that he saw all the photographers down at the end of that stair. So I think that tells everything, the way they came down with an icy steps there.
Absolutely. Look, I'm in shock watching that vision. I think Brigitte Macron needs to address the incident, possibly apologise.